Okay.
Go back to the elite competitor. Do you
Yes,
think
sir.
a elite competitor blocks the outside noise or feeds on the outside noise?
You don't care, really, because it don't influence you. I've never read an article or a comment and said, oh, that's going to make me go harder. I'm going to go hard regardless. But that comment just allowed me to know where you stand.
Okay.
So that's the only differential of the thing. It doesn't propel me. Where I came from propelled me.
Okay.
How I grew up propelled me. Like, being African American, one of few that's a head coach in college football, that kind of stuff propels me.
Sean Keeler of the Denver Post and Deion Sanders has become a thing. And most reporters don't want to be the focus of the story, but it happens every now and then. Sean joins us right now. Sean, thanks for being on with us. I'm going to dispose.
Wait. We're having him on?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
Sean, we really appreciate your time. I'm going to dispose with the niceties. You should know that we support you and all that.
Yep.
But I am curious if you have any regrets, or do you think Prime was somewhat, or CU was justified in the consequences they have for banning you from asking questions?
Oh, they're not remotely justified. Let's be clear on that. As you guys have talked about, he doesn't have to call on me or answer any questions, but to stretch that out in the public light and to put that on the record, that's on them. That's a beyond kind of step. As we've talked about, I think you were talking the other day. This isn't my first rodeo either. It is in this market, but it's not for me. I've had a coach, like you said, you go down if they disagree with something, as has happened here, it's happened to you.
Yep.
T-Mac, as you said, you go up, you hash it out, man to man.
Yeah.
You do it in private. Maybe a PR person is there. Maybe your sports editor is there. Maybe they're not. I've had a couple of those. Like, there is a protocol to this. And I have asked Deion Sanders through CU, can we talk about this? And you know what I heard back?
What?
Nothing.
Nothing.
That. You're frozen. You can still come, but you're frozen. And I'm like, well, that's how we're going to play this. Good luck to you.
Sean, here's my take on it, man. I don't agree with what they did to you. I don't. However, if I'm being honest, I get why Deion Sanders doesn't like you. I get why.
I do too.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, I get why he feels like you've got a vendetta towards him. But like the examples that they use, the deposition Deion, Bruce Lee at BS, which we all agree was a phenomenal line.
We're
Right, I will use that. I am stealing that. As long as you have
false prophet. That's a bit strong, right? Like there are some very strong, and I would actually feel personal words towards Deion Sanders. Would you?
You absolutely would, and he's absolutely justified to never say a word to me ever again. He absolutely is. But then I would ask him this: is it any worse than calling Jeff Bridich a coward in print twice, or calling Steve Adazio a bully and a fool in print? There isn't any agenda. There's a job. You're asked, why are you here? Why are you doing this? Because I'm a columnist and you're a 4-8 coach. And it's all a perception thing. I thought about this a lot.
Okay.
And he asked, do I regret anything?
Yeah.
I regret the exchange 12 days ago, whenever that was, that I didn't simply just say, and rather than trying to be funny, thinking we were going to be cute, because we've had some cute exchanges too. Mm-hmm. He's a great guy to talk to that way. I mean, he's Deion. This is his life, his show. This is what you do. But when he came back, I think I was genuinely so shocked that it was at that moment we were going to have that discussion on that stage that I wish would have just said, because I'm the columnist, the biggest newspaper in the state, and you're a 4-8 football coach. That's why we're having this discussion. That's what we're doing.
I found
there's some. But he doesn't think of it that way. He thinks I'm Deion Sanders Hall of Famer, and why don't you people see this? And those who see it, and those who don't. And it's splitting up the media. Like, we've had some. I thought of you, D-Mac, when I thought about this morning coming on the show.
Okay.
We have had some real muggle on muggle crimes going on is some muggle on muggle hit jobs.
We
To use your
have.
vernacular,
We have.
that's disappointed me more than anything, because
Mm,
subject to media, that's going to happen. That's a roller coaster. You don't know. Media on media crime and the degree of piling on has been crazy to me, and just kind of makes me shake my head.
You know, and I was going to ask you a little bit about that, about support locally, because we've seen some national guys really come up to your defense.
Yep.
Feinbaum just obliterated
Yeah.
Deion today. I think it was today, right? Or yesterday.
Yeah, it was this morning. Yeah.
So there have been that, but it also is it now as, and I'm going to call you this, although you're way younger than me, an old school journalist type thing. Is it surprising, or is it reinforcing now where journalism has gone in all of media, maybe not just in sports?
I think it does, and I think that, to your point, as an old school guy, I'm. You're right, Scott. I had one of your basketball cards, and I remember when you played, but I'm not that old yet. Yeah, I know, it's sad. But yeah, it just makes me take a look at the industry and go, this is where we've come to, and what, to the folks who have clearly wanted to take sides in the buff circle of media, what are you getting out of it? Like, are you going with him when he goes? What is he giving to you other than a smile and a comment that's going to stick? Like, I'm sort of flabbergasted by this to some degree, but I also understand it, because there's a fine line between respect and fear, and what happens with this moment. And I'm not a martyr. I'm not a victim. I don't, to D-Mac's point, we don't sign up to this to be the story.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we are, fine, whatever. But the degree of fear and cowering that runs among the people who cover the Colorado athletic department, and in some cases, some people who are in the Colorado athletic department, is amazing to me, because there is a line between respect and there's a line between just outright having some courage. And I'm stunned how many people won't cross it.
All right. So, taking regret out of it, do you think you might have gone too far at some point?
Bruce Lee of BS, I challenge you to go back to the Keyshawn Johnson interview he gave in January. Listen to that again and tell me how much of that seems on the level and how much of that is just flat out braggadocio. One.
Okay.
False prophet?
False prophet?
That's pretty strong, dude. That's pretty strong.
It is. And I'm not making fun of anyone's faith and anyone's relationship with their maker. Two things you don't get in between: somebody's relationship with their significant other and somebody's relationship with their maker. That's personal. That's you and you. Only you can answer that. I can't, and I can't judge it.
But did you?
When you use God and the Lord as a crutch, how is that any less offensive than saying what you're doing is, being put that back of, look, you're saying that you are the holy one to do this. Again, there's nothing to do with race, creed, color, anything. When that gets put back on you, that is not a specific attack on your faith. That's an attack on, why do you have to use that in this context? I don't think the Lord cares whether CU is any good or not. And they've already gotten in trouble for that, have they not? They've had to dial that down quite a bit. It's just a different place that way.
Well, historically, anyway. Well, it's kind of tough when you sit there and, whatever your faith is and his faith, that you're supposed to love everybody, and he comes out in the presser and says, listen, I don't like about 15% of you. Well, that's against the teaching right there, ain't it?
Well, and I don't dislike him. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I'm finding myself disliking a lot of people under him for reasons we've discussed. To which the idea of we've got to circle the wagons on this, and we've included local reporters as well. Again, I'm just flummoxed by that to some degree. But I'll tell you a story. This is where it's gotten. You want to know the inside stuff?
Yeah.
A long time Buffs reporter at that all-city practice, which I went to. There are some more stories out of that I'll tell you someday. When this smoke all clears, promise me we'll talk about this. Happy to on air, happy to off air anytime.
Yeah.
But this is a very nice man. And he says to me, I've known him since I've been here. And he says, you guys remember, you guys seen the movie Blazing Saddles?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember the scene where the old lady brings Cleavon Little the pie
Yep.
and then says, "You'll have the good decency not to tell anyone I spoke to you," and broad, whatever it is.
Yes.
He says to me very quietly, "Look, if I say anything on radio now in the future that is offensive to you as a professional, as a person, just know I've got to toe the line. And this is for my audience. This is for my followers, my channel. And I really think you're a good guy, but don't tell anybody I like you." And I just think that was that scene where I about fell over and went, have we gone there? Am I in North Korea and I've got to be looking left and right? What are we doing?
Why is it important for journalists to be able to question authority when it comes to the world of sports? When it's just sports, man. What are we doing here? Like, why are we so uptight? It's not the politics or the end of the world here. Why is it important to be able to have a difference of opinion in this format?
Because whether it's me or anybody else, the highest paid coach in the university system in the state has to be accountable because of their platform and their influence, whether they're Deion Sanders or Mike McIntyre or whomever. That doesn't change. If those people are above criticism, are above, and you can say, well, it's not, and I get a lot of this, it's not fair criticism, it's name calling, it's baiting. But if you draw the line of, I am above all criticism, where are we going? Like the slippery slope goes both ways. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying I'm always right. If he's 9-3, you are going to see a mea culpa like you've never seen. And I'm happy to do it because the scoreboard, not me, not you guys, great as you are, none of us are going to control the narrative the way the scoreboard is.
Well, what about a scoreboard of there's more diversity in terms of applications? Applications are up. The interest level in the university up. It's kind of benefiting everybody in the community. What about that scoreboard?
I think that's a fair plus. I think that's a fair defense for this. Look, Google this. I have written, and this doesn't get talked about the way these things don't get talked about. Last November, right after the season ended, I said, this was a fantastic win for CU. It's right there in the headline. Hiring Deion Sanders, big win for CU. You got what you wanted out of this. From a marketing perspective, from a PR perspective, this is a big win. But now you've got to convert it to the football side because is that not the point of this? Well, all that other stuff is great. And you've managed to diversify the front porch and you've managed to help change CU in a good way. And I think in a lot of great ways. Look, Deion Sanders is the guy you'll see in all these lawsuits in Texas and the same guy who gives new fathers on his team $2,100. We're all in shades of gray here. I mean, we're all human, Deion included. He is all those things. But the idea that you can't be called out professionally on your job when your job is at the level and the exposure that it's at, I think that's a crazy thing to me. It just is.
Warts and all, is the University of Colorado in a better spot today with Deion Sanders than they were without him?
Yeah. Yep. Definitely. No question.
Does that come across in anything that you write?
It has in some, the examples I mentioned, and it will Thursday night if they, beat the heck out of NDSU. Sure.
With all this said, will you continue to try to reach out, to have a sit down and hash out a meeting with Deion?
Yes. That door is always open. It's never closed. I invited a chance to talk to him. I wish we would have had a better format than at that news conference moment that he chose and I didn't. And that's fine, but I'm always happy to do that. And the folks at CU know that too.
Is it clear what you need to do to become unbanned?
No.
Okay.
No.
Because it feels
No.
a bit
And I
nebulous.
don't think I will be. I'm fully prepared for that. And again, while disappointing, it's not surprising. I'm grateful that my bosses have been understanding and supportive of me. I'm grateful that my peers at the Denver Post have been understanding and supportive of me. And we will continue to do our jobs. as he will continue to do his, and we'll just see what happens.
What's your take on media who doesn't even want to be considered media and will openly deny being journalists, yet they're still granted access to do journalistic types of things?
Is that like the people who ask Aflac questions at these things?
Who was that dude, by the way?
I guess.
And I don't want to throw, says the guy who just threw Piers under the bus. I don't want to throw Piers under the bus.
Well, they don't want to be considered peers, Sean.
No,
they don't
they
want to be
don't
considered peers.
because what they want is access. And what I've noticed with Colorado is, and this is just media on media talking, so this is way too inside baseball, but I've noticed that access equals arrogance, but it's also equal cowardice when other things come down the pike, and that's the risk you take. And if objectivity in this context, now again, this is a column to say you're not objective, you name called, okay, fine, but that's my job. Just like it's you guys' job every day to give your opinion on things, whether people like it or not. Who gave you the power to do that? My bosses? A lifetime of writing awards? I don't know. I do it. That's it. But it's not about me. It's about them and my takes on them. And you can agree or disagree, but that's what I'm like, what makes America great? What makes America great is we can tell our leaders to go jump. And you can tell people of power to go jump, and you're not going to get shot. You might get threatened. You might not feel comfortable.
Get banned.
Sure.
You might get banned, but that you can do that. That is what makes America great. And pizza, those two things.
Yeah. Was there anybody that reached out to you since this all transpired that really struck a chord for you in appreciation?
Oh, many. Oh, gosh. Yeah. I mean, it's been kind of 75, 25 national folks. Some I know, some I don't, saying, hey, you got kind of railroaded with this, because I didn't get warning that ban had been talked about, but only became out to the public last week, obviously. But the time when I was tapped on the shoulder and said, next question, which was a funny joke. That should be my nickname. Sean, next question, Keeler. CSU is going to do that to me. They said every time I come up, they're going to say next question, whether I want it or not. They've been very nice. I think 75-25 folks have been very supportive in the industry, and locally 50-50.
Has Rick George ever reached out to you?
Never. No, not at all.
What were you going to ask Prime?
That's a good question. I was going to ask him this was the football question, what he would define as success for this season, given how many chips have been pushed into year two. The last year of Shador, last year of Shiloh, last year of Travis Hunter, et cetera, et cetera. That was the question. That was it. And it was all that, which goes back to don't ever try to do anything nice. It never comes back.
There's some irony here, Sean. Sean Keeler is our guest at the Denver Post, because you weren't completely banned right away, because you had a nice interaction with Pat Shurmur. And
I did.
I thought it was, in fact, not only did I think that was great, but I thought Pat Shurmur, who's kind of hated amongst the Broncos faithful, gave an answer of like, hey, it's a nice day outside. I never thought I'd be doing this. You never know where life is going to take you. And it was actually a great answer to a good question and made Pat Shurmur pretty likable, to the degree where I saw Pat Shurmur at the All-City practice, and I was like, hey, coach, I'm cheering for you a little bit here. Good luck.
Yeah.
Because it humanized Pat Shurmur.
Right.
But then the next day, I see you trying to ask Warren Sapp a question, and you couldn't ask. Yeah, next question.
Next question. Yeah. The off-record stuff, boys. There's not a bar long enough for some of these tales. But Pat has never been anything but professional with me. And there's somebody where I've taken some shots, to be fair, and he has stood up and answered every question I've ever asked. And I'm like, God, I respect you for that. I don't think you're a great play caller, but I respect you as a person, because you've got to stand up to that, because he's been in New York and he's done this. He's probably just like, fine, this is nothing. And he's right compared to, the Big Apple media. It isn't anything. The other thing about that media day, after the big, the fat guy gets mocked, and that's fine. I'll take that. I got to own that. But after that day, I ran up to a couple CU officials, and this is before the ban or what have you. And I said, God, you know what? After all that today, because then they had players you could interview one-on-one, and I was allowed to, and it was fine. It was normal.
Yeah.
They had 40 players out there. I must have talked to 4 or 5, and we'll be using some of that stuff as the season goes on. And every one of them was great. Every one was a gentleman, representative, black, white, regardless, insightful, just great. Tyler Brown's great. Everybody's great. You're just thinking, and I said to this individual who's in CUPR, that's what I'm mad about today when I want to walk away from this. Not that I look like a big turd on national TV, which is true, is that I wish I could talk to these guys more because they are such great representatives of what you're trying to do. And as you guys know, we don't get to pick who we talk to. It's handed to us except for that one day on a whatever coach wants basis. And that, I won't lie, that from an access standpoint, that kind of doesn't just drive me nuts. It drives everybody on the beat nuts. But these guys were great. And I walked away from that going, man, I wish I could talk to these guys more. And now I can at all. So there you go.
All right. So you're going to be there Thursday night. You were there. You were there Saturday.
Yeah, that was great.
So you're just not asking questions. So you're there not asking questions.
I'm there to get stuff thrown at me. It's great.
Okay. All right, Sean. Well, oh my God. So weird. All right, Sean, we appreciate your time. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you. Someday, gentlemen. Someday we'll talk about all this. I appreciate it, guys.
Okay. Thanks. Sean Keeler, the Denver Post. Well, it's surreal. I don't know what to say. It's so weird.
This doesn't happen in Denver, Colorado. This is not a Denver, Colorado thing.
It's the first I've seen it. Okay. Well, there you go. I don't know what else to say. The fact, I don't know.
You know what CU would say to what he just said at the very end, though?
What's that?
Well, how come you never wrote about that stuff before? So now you miss out on the opportunity to write about the good stuff that you wish that you could have done.
But as he said, that's what those stories are going to be coming out. And that's what they do on a media day: get as many as you can, and then bring stories out when you can. But
yeah, I don't know. I mean, you could say 100 nice things about somebody. You say one negative thing, and they're going to remember that, not the 100 nice things. So I don't know what else that is. This really does seem like, well, I don't know. It's a him and Deion thing right now. However, I really do think if they could get in a room and just sort of hash it out, no cameras, just talk, I think it'd be fine. I really do. I think there's so many good stories to be told about CU rather than negative stories. I do. And I'm rooting for every single positive story that can happen this year. I am. And
especially when it comes to the kids.
Definitely. And it took me a second when that first came out because it was like, what is going on here? But the more that I realized, this is just 2 guys. And frankly, I don't know what Deion's even that upset about. I don't quite get it.
You know, I'll say this. I actually expected the text line to be much more 50-50 because there are as many people that are anti-CU as there's more people that are anti-CU than there are pro-CU, right? You disagree with that?
Yeah, I would say more pro.
Maybe here locally. I guess I'm thinking more from like a national point of view, but maybe I'm off on that. The reaction on the text line is purely anti-Keeler. I mean, there's maybe 1 or 2 in support of him, but it's nearly purely that. I honestly do think the average fan, the average Joe, could not care less about any of this. They couldn't care less about any of us. The only people that care are media members.
Yeah, because it's their livelihood.
Yeah.
And here's a guy trying to affect their livelihood.
Well, I would ask people, I guess, and that's why I asked him the question, hey, man, it's just sports. Is this really that big of a deal? You know, it's just sports. And his response was, well, is this still, basically to paraphrase, is this still America? And I'm like, well, last time I checked it was.